Anyway, our subject is architecture and pleasure. And of course, when the invitation is coming from Pachi and from Louise, of course, the whole conference is about architecture and pleasure. So almost this is a panel that almost should not exist. And it has also a subtitle, From Icon Aesthetics to Common Beauty. So it seems that we are the pleasure panel, but pleasure here is aesthetic. But I guess what I would like to suggest to you that pleasure is also a kind of calculation. I don't agree with the idea that pleasure is beyond calculation, beyond measure. Actually, I think it's only calculation and only measure, and that's a good thing for architects because we measure a lot. And so the question here is, what is the kind of mathematics of pleasure? And anyway, this is a conference about mathematics. You have here this totem pole of plus and the multiplication and the minus, which of course is trying to say more for less, but also is telling us that we are in some kind of mathematics world. And in the wider context of this Congress, the theme is more for less, which sounds good. Almost it sounds good too easily. It's even actually a formula for good value. So of course it sounds good. It's good value. But really, what does it mean? All of these sentences which are immediately quick and immediately fast have always many, many problems. And perhaps in this panel we can think about these problems. What does it really mean, more for less? More of what, by the way? Or less of what? Like which are we having more of and which are we having less of? Is more what convention would suggest, like more beauty, more comfort, more stimulation, more shelter, more protection, more organization, more clarity, more representation, more memory, more light, more interactivity, more longevity? All of these words in architecture mean good. So more could mean more good. Less, what could be less? Less material, less energy, less time, less money, less conflict, less violence, less inconvenience, less accidents, less confusion, less noise, less leaks. This list will go a long time, and here I'm only on the, let's say, the more or less conventional understanding of what would be less. And we have even a bigger problem here. It means for us in the pleasure panel, more pleasure for less. So now we have to be very careful because, you know, pleasure is a very serious subject. So more pleasure, we would like to know the price. What will be less? And anyway, we have another problem because pleasure is often, usually, and symptomatically seen already as a kind of excess. It's more already. So more pleasure would mean more of more, like the fantastic Mas supermarkets. I mean, the pure super consumption. Pleasure, of course, in Spain is absolutely central to life. It is why Spanish people live forever, despite trying to be the worst drivers in the world and the biggest and most professional smokers in the world. They live forever, longer than the Japanese. I think it has a lot to do with pleasure and food. Spain is the only country in the world in which every news broadcast includes a passionate discussion about food. And this food is coming from this discussion comes from high experts, important chefs, but also comes from people in the street. And you have often the camera zooming in on the movement of vegetables and delivery of oil. And if you walk the streets, any street in Spain, they're always talking about food. And even when eating, with the mouth half full, is a description of the meal of yesterday and a kind of a theory of what one should be eating tomorrow. It's amazing. So I think this Congress, which I am very, very happy to be a small part of, is asking a very, very important question, a brutal question, a straight question. What is the role of architect in society today? Well, of course, I would would have a more or less romantic view of architecture. I think architecture is a form of communication, and I think it communicates the aspirations of society. No, in my mind, no question. But you know, the strange thing, to have something, in this case buildings, cities, communicate the aspirations of society, to make this communication, you have to interrupt society. In other words, to speak about what society dreams of, you have to be actually a little bit antisocial, because in the moment of dreaming, you're no longer in society, you're actually saying what society could be, should be. Even if I say, no, I'm not even going to dream, I just give you a reflection of society. I make a building that simply reflects the reality of society today. Even this moment of reflection is an interruption, because precisely it's reflecting upon everyday life, but this is not an everyday thing. This is an interruption. So this gesture, this way in which the architect is trying to speak of what a society could be, and I think there is absolutely fundamental optimism in every architect. Architecture is a kind of a virus. You believe that it's possible for a building to talk, which is something human beings do not believe. You listen to buildings and you think they're talking to you, and that you can use them to talk to society, and there is no cure for this. Once you decide that you are an architect, you are lost forever.